Welcome, welcome. Oh, we got a lot of people coming in. Excellent. Good to see you all. Oh, there's a familiar face. Hey, Mark, good to see you. There's Beth. Haven't seen Beth. Haven't seen you in a long time. Good to see you. Jerry, welcome. CF, welcome. Brian, good to see you. Sean, good to see you. Great. Cool. So we'll give people some time to jump in, especially Brandon. Let's give everybody a minute or so.
I'll be right back.
No worries. So I just got off stage. I was speaking at the Scale Summit. I literally hung up and transferred over to this call. I gotta get my energy here, my protein. Today's speaking day.
Keep the vocals nice and tight.
Say that again?
The vocals nice and tight.
Yeah, I'm warm up. I'm warm and ready to go.
Ready?
Yeah. Well, good. As we're kind of preparing for this, I'd love if you have a question. You could either kind of ask it or you can put it in the chat. Be glad to take it either way. Does anyone have anything pressing that they want to kind of go over? Be sure to go over today. Otherwise, I'm gonna share something here that might spur some conversation. Hi, Brandon.
Hi, everybody. Sorry I was late. I'm packing to go to Seattle. Lost track of time. What's going on?
Good. So we got a few familiar faces, some new faces today.
Awesome.
Said I just got off stage. Brandon spoke yesterday at the Scale Summit. What was the title of your talk, Brandon?
It was long. It was how to create videos. It was now you just put me on the spot. It was essentially around the course how to create videos that sell, but it was about how to engage audience with rapport using video, how to turn customers into raving fans. We had a really good session. I gave our formula for how to collect testimonials from customers and clients, so that everybody loved that. The 5 to 7 questions we ask people when they're giving a testimonial, to talk about their journey. So yeah, good, a real good session.
Cool. Yeah, I was just telling them I just literally clicked exit from my session and jumped over here. So
nice.
Presentation day.
What'd you do? Did you do deep funnel?
I did deep funnel marketing today.
Nice.
So always good to share that. So Brandon, I'm gonna share a video here, and I want us to kind of go through that as an example. Just let me get this set up here. I wanna make sure I share the right thing. Got to share audio and video. Optimize for video. So what I want to share with you all and have a little bit of a discussion on, Brandon, this is a book trailer. If you remember, we did this for Marty. So I want to kind of I want to play this, and then we're going to kind of break it down for you. And this is going to be a good model for you if you're doing promotional videos. So I'm going to go ahead and play it. It's a minute and a half, and then we'll go back and kind of break it down.
Business owners are closing their doors at an alarming rate. Unemployment and underemployment is dissolving people's dreams. Couples are growing more distant in their relationships. Is everything negative happening in our world to blame? Or are you in more control of your future than you realize? Getting clarity about exactly what you want and how you're going to get it is more important today than ever before.
people don't really understand what it is that they want. That is what the Lions Always Win book really helps you with.
I had to figure out a process for finding out what a new client wants before I can help that person get what she or he wants. Lions Always Win is that process. Hi, my name is Marty Dickinson, author of the book Lions Always Win, How to Spot What You Want in Business and Life and Get It Too.
It was so incredible to have that person and a tool like his book to get me to where I really actually wanted to be, where my actual passion was lying.
Lions Always Win is going to help you get clarity in what you really want so that you have actual focus to get what you want.
Marty is somebody that I've seen take his dreams and his goals and make them happen. When it came time to, hey, here's my book, you might actually get something out of it, immediately was like, I need to read this.
If Napoleon Hill was to write a new chapter in Think and Grow Rich, it would be this book.
Cool. So one of the things, Brandon, I want to kind of talk about is, I gotta see where it's at here. All right, so this is interesting. So it took us, what, about 45 seconds to actually have Marty introduce himself. All right, which is probably different than most people have seen. If you remember, I would love for somebody to jump in. Like, what did we do first in this video that you noticed that might be different than what you've seen before? There's no wrong answers.
Wasn't there people walking? Traffic.
Oh, okay.
People, feet traffic.
Okay. Anybody else? What did you notice about the beginning of the video?
The text to me was that was an attitude that seemed to be negative for whatever reason until Marty came on.
Okay. So one of the things we found in doing this is a book trailer. This is one type of promotion. One of the things we discovered is that too many people were doing videos where they introduce themselves first. Brandon and I, through a lot of testing, have kind of figured out, and a lot of video people have kind of discovered this, which is people's attention spans are really short, and you got to kind of get to the point and hook them. So one of the things we liked in working with Marty is that he understood that. Now, the hook, we think the hook's a little bit negative, right? But he's creating a little bit of a open hook in your mind. He's trying to hook you on, like, hey, there's a lot of negativity going on right now. And I think he produced this kind of early middle COVID, Brandon.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of despair.
Yep.
Okay. And so one of the things he did well, I thought, was he kind of tapped into that despair. And his book is Lions Always Win, and so he's basically setting the stage for like what's to come. And then so there's this problem and agitate at the beginning of a video. So one of the things we discovered is if you're going to do a really good, compelling video, what you need to do is focus in on problem and agitation first. All right. You don't want to dive into solution, and you also don't want to dive into credibility first. So you may see videos where it's like, hi, I'm Mark Sharp and I'm a therapist, right? Like, that is okay, but it's not speaking to your target audience. So you start off with problem and agitation, and then he went into basically his reason why. He put together a methodology to help people figure out, how can I serve them? He ended up taking that methodology and turning it into a book. And then the other thing that was important is Brandon actually went to Marty's house and got Marty to do some commentary. And Brandon, you essentially got him to talk about why he wrote the book, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So a couple of things you're seeing is just from a structure point of view in the video is, it's first getting the attention. It's calling people out and entering the conversation that may be in their head, and yet usually has to be around frustration. So he addresses that in that video. And then he tells the story, which is really it was his customer's hero journey. So it wasn't all about Marty. It was about Marty discovering that while he was building this agency and doing work for clients, is he had to help people get clear on what they really wanted. And thus was it's kind of like the reluctant hero to a degree, although he wasn't that reluctant. He's like, hey, I'm going to write a book on this. This is what people need. But he positions himself, he comes alongside as the Obi-Wan to the Luke Skywalker. And he says, before I could help my clients get B, I needed to get them to A. And that is the purpose and the reason behind this book. And it's very powerful. That makes sense. But yeah, the reluctant hero, keeping the customer as the hero and not making yourself to be the hero. Very important.
And then so getting Marty's side of the story is really good because we get into all those things that Brandon talked about. And then we purposely put 3 clients. So these are 3 clients and 3 people that read the book. So another component to the video, which is really powerful, is Marty could say things about what the book will do for people, but it's 10 times more powerful when those 3 individuals talk about how powerful the book is. And so even though notice the first individual, he was an older gentleman, we used our remote service with that. He had a lot of trouble kind of getting the tech set up, but you don't kind of notice that because it's more about what he's saying. And also it looks really authentic. So we got 3 people to essentially endorse Marty in that point. So he's building credibility through testimonials and basically results. The results are being shared by the individual. And then the last slide was actually the call to action. So you always want to close a good video out with a call to action. In his case, it was, he had kind of a little tagline there, but then it was, available on Amazon. So his whole goal is I want to get people to Amazon to get the book. So we just kind of want to bring that as a pretty good example of, if you're looking to create just a single video to kind of talk about what you do and to drive people in, that's a really good model to follow. So CF, I'd love to hear a little bit about your business. Let's see, TVcom. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
Sure. TVcom, pretty much business coaches, experts, and entrepreneurs pretty much hire me to help them go from YouTube to TV. If you're familiar with platforms like Apple TV, Amazon, Fire Stick, and Roku, specifically focusing on Roku because they're the leader. So getting entrepreneurs thinking differently, because for a long time, the content has actually been dictated to us, but with this new platform now, we can now actually reach a demographic of people that's not only just local, but national and globally. It's what I help them do by taking their content and streaming it on a platform like Roku.
Cool. What would you say is your core, are you a creative person or a strategic person? How would you?
A little bit both, but more so creative, but a little bit of both, being that I have to help the actual client determine, like you were saying in your opening here, is when they're presenting something that not everyone's gonna be a great fit, because you don't want to take something from someplace else and you're not prepared to have a good call to action in whatever you're doing. It can be video or text, but now these days you want to drive them somewhere. And most times people want that bang, but they don't have the whole entire process together. So being creative with them to show them how to actually create that bottom line and having that call to action as well in their videos.
So those platforms are interesting. Are you helping clients generate new creative, or are you taking their existing creative and basically converting it to work on alternate platforms?
Taking their current, and then those right now, with recognizing helping some people start even creating videos because they can kind of get behind the 8 ball, thinking that they can't, that they need a massive budget to even create, being that we have a lot of great technology in our hands, our webcams and things like that. But mostly when we initially notched out those who already had content from independent filmmakers, independent music artists, business coaches, speakers. They can take what they've already had and we can just take it and upload it and broadcast it on iDefine TV.
Cool, very cool. Nice little niche. That's growing.
Nice, real nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it might be opportunities for us to do some things together, because that's a place where a lot of clients could go to that's a little bit scary.
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
Cool.
Jerry, tell us a little bit about your business.
Well, I'm a little bit, so thank you for inviting me. I'm a little bit outside your sweet spot here, but fascinated by what I'm hearing for sure. So I basically nurture a group of talent acquisition leaders in very large companies.
Okay.
It's a community that's about 120 companies. Collectively, they hire about 3 million people a year, so it's not that small. And my platform is, which is 20 years that I've been doing this, is has about 4,000 people talking to each other every month. So
Cool.
it's a community of folks who are committed to helping one another relative to talent acquisition.
So what is the company size that's typical of one of your clients?
They typically hire 5,000 or more people a year.
Wow.
So it's not small companies, clearly.
No.
And the complexity is a little different when you consider that if you have to hire 100,000 people this year, how many people do you need in order to do that? What do you think your budget's going to look like? What is what are some of the technology tools that do exist, and how painful is it to use those technology tools to get it done? But obviously, this whole issue relative to recruitment marketing and the visuals and all of those things continue to evolve everywhere, including in how we want to engage people about jobs, the people that should be doing the jobs, as well as turn off perhaps the people who shouldn't be doing those jobs.
Brandon, I'd love for you to comment on the whole B2B prospecting thing that you've been studying in regards to video.
I just started doing some research on the shift in B2B. There's a huge opportunity because of the trend of a lot of B2B businesses not going back to in-person sales and not going back to in-person meetings. And not even the people have just gotten so comfortable with Zoom. They've gotten so comfortable with, it's okay to wear a t-shirt and have a honest conversation in your spare bedroom or office. This trend, there's conversations about how office buildings are now going to be converted to apartments, because when people are happier and they're more content working remote or flexibility, they are much more productive. There's also fractional full-time is another concept coming, where instead of being full-time for one company or you're a full-time employee for 3 companies, and you're giving each company 10 hours a week because that's really all the position needs. So there's amazing, beautiful shifts that are happening in the employment space.
I would agree with you, Brandon. I think one of the issues that I see as enhancing that shift is the extent to which the individual, the employee within a company, is gaining more control over the choices around whether to come in, whether to be on Zoom, how much to blend their life with their work, et cetera. Because we're all different, and many of us, tend to want to compartmentalize, or which we've had to do during the pandemic, is really blend our work with everything else that's going on.
Yes, agreed.
So the problem I see is that many, especially large companies, initially were very much being progressive about everybody gets to work from anywhere, everywhere, until their employees suddenly said, "Oh, by the way, I moved to Budapest, and thank you for continuing to pay me, because boy, I can sock away a lot of money now." And now we have a significant number of companies in which the leadership of those companies, without really spending much time talking to their employees, Apple is one, a few others that are out there. Morgan Stanley, for example, just last week basically said, "You got to come back. And you come back on my terms. And this is what I'm going to dictate. And if you don't, then you're just not going to get New York wages."
Yeah.
And so I think there's going to be I think maybe the next year, 2 years, might be really interesting to see the extent to which employers dictate performance, or do they dictate place and time. And I'm a fan of I get control of place and time. You can dictate what the performance standard is for me in terms of success. But how I meet that ought to be a little bit more in my control if I'm a professional. And now you need to invest in my training, upskilling, to be able to become more adept at working from anywhere or working in an agile kind of way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're in a position where there's going to be a lot of need, a lot of discussion. Like there is major upheaval in corporate America and all over the globe. So well positioned to help out your clients. It's amazing. It was just reminding me we've had a couple cool projects in the last couple of years where we've helped companies do recruiting videos, where we used kind of our testimonial chops to help companies recruit talent, because that's been one of their biggest challenges, is finding good talent that wants to work for them, right, and wants to be in an environment with so many choices, right? They want to be in an environment that kind of invigorates them. So having to try to capture the vibe of the company and all the great things about the company. Those always, we did that for a roofing company of all places. We did it for huge massage chain in Austin, Texas, and San Antonio. So those are just two that popped in my mind. So I mean, even employers are having to not just market for customers, they're having to market for talent.
They are.
And video was a big part of what they were doing to help capture that. So it's really
I think
cool.
video is going to be increasingly critical, but one of the aspects that makes, I think, employment a little bit different is you need to market not just what works, what is great about the job and or company, but what it is that it should challenge you to decide whether you should actually go forward with it. As opposed to trying to convince 5,000 people to apply, I want to convince 50 to apply. That's less pain than for all those people I have to tell no to. If I can help them better understand that they're not ready, even if they can do the job, they're not going to do the job because they're not willing to do the job given the other context of their career and their life. And that's an interesting challenge that I have not seen too many in the marketing side really address well, because we're so used to wanting people to buy the product. We often forget, how do we turn people off who shouldn't be here?
So it sounds like your strategy has to be almost 60 to 70% push away and disqualify, and 30%, 20% less.
Yeah. The problem with most companies, though, in my opinion, is their unwillingness to be transparent on the things that actually should matter.
Ooh, that's
so
powerful.
if I'm a recruiter and this particular hiring manager is an asshole who is abusing people rather than developing them, how do I out them in a way, or help the candidate ask the right questions? Because many candidates don't ask the right question. They end up going to a great company, but unfortunately, even great companies have idiots in hiring manager positions. So I'm still fascinated at this age with the problems that we face when we're starting to deal with recruiting.
Yeah, one of the two of the slides in the presentation I just gave talk about marketing should be as much about repelling the wrong people as in attracting the right people, which is a little bit counterintuitive because we think, oh, we're just going to open up the funnel wide. But when you sell something like, Brandon and I, a video story day, if you're doing it right, you're going to spend between 15 to 25,000 to get a bunch of video done. Well, we don't need a massive funnel for that, right? We need to repel as many people. We need to repel more people than we attract. So that goes with a lot of our clients who end up, coming in, who are dealing with, different things. where they're selling high price products, high price services, and they really need to talk to the right people versus a lot of people,
Right.
you know. So
Yeah.
cool. Well, good. Thank you for sharing that, Jerry.
Great stuff, Jerry. Thank you.
Cool. So, Mark, good to see you. As you're taking a drink there, I thought I'd pick on you. Tell us a little bit about what's going on with you.
All right. I figured as soon as I picked up my coffee cup, you'd call on me there, Bob.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
That's the way I roll.
I wanted to go next, so I decided.
What's going on in your world?
So, well, for those of you who don't know me, which is most of you, I'm a psychologist, work primarily with relationships, and I'm actually in my office today.
Wow.
Because I'm opening back up and seeing people. So I've got some people I'm actually going to see face to face, and I'm finding it very interesting that everyone who's already kind of established doing therapy stuff, video, it's more convenient, and most of them are saying, you know what, we're doing this, it's working. I was surprised it was worked as well as it did, but everybody who's coming in now is new, right? They're like new people that have never done it before, and they're sort of so it's an interesting thing. But anyway, so that's me. I don't have any pressing I probably have lots of pressing questions for you, but I don't have any pressing questions for you today. And
How would you say your practice fared during COVID? Did you kind of remain steady? Did you was there any shifts?
Yeah, my practice pretty much remained steady. It was pretty steady, and I think that's pretty true for most of my profession. I actually think people who specialize in anxiety had a little bit of an uptick in their work.
Mark,
Right.
is there an issue for you when you're doing, let's say, a Zoom conversation with a client in terms of their anxiety around recording, for example? Because I have to imagine that would add value rather than you taking notes.
Right.
For being able to do more analysis.
I haven't really run into anything like that with people, right? I mean, I don't use Zoom because Zoom's not particularly secure, and it costs a couple $100 a month to get a HIPAA secure Zoom account, and so I've got a couple of other platforms I use that actually work, and that's been fine. Nobody's had a lot of kind of anxiety about that. I had some concerns. When you work with couples, things get a little volatile at times. And I was a little concerned that might spin out of control sometimes, and not being in the room might be a problem. And what was really interesting is what I have found, I think, is that people modulate themselves better when I'm not in the room. They're actually willing to sort of let go, because I never really had an issue with that, which makes me think maybe we're holding back a little bit, but was also a relief. I didn't want to see anybody getting beat up on the other end of my videos. But most of the people I work with, I mean, I think that the shift to remote has been really good for them, because I'm working primarily with couples. A lot of them have kids, there's daycare. I mean, it's a whole lot more out of your day and a whole lot more organization you have to put together to jump in the car and go and get somebody to watch the kids. And, if your kids are 6 or 7, you may have to leave the room once in a while to go check on them, but it's just a whole lot easier for people to do. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm talking too much.
I was going to turn you, Mark. So what's kind of next for you in terms of like, are you in growth mode? Are you maintenance mode? Where do you think your kind of next move as you go into this next quarter?
I'm in maintenance mode really right now, but the mode I need to shift into, one of the things that's happened is with all of this shift to remote stuff, and there's actually an organization coming together that kind of expands licensure. So I actually am at a place now where I can provide services under my license, which is normally limited to a state, to I think about 60% of the country now. And so I actually have the capacity to expand my market a lot more in the actual face-to-face, call it therapy space.
Okay.
And so
You're essentially then moving from the Chicagoland area to the entire US.
the entire US, most of the entire US, yeah.
So positioning and communication actually becomes an advantage for you.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot more opportunity to expand. It's not just local anymore.
Okay. Well, I mean, obviously video is going to be real important for that and positioning.
Right.
You've done a couple of videos with us. I think, you
Yeah,
know,
you guys gave me a nice little set. Thanks, Brandon.
so,
My pleasure.
I think that's going to be key for now I mean, it's not just you getting to be able to open up to the US, it's all therapists, right?
Well, there's this I don't know what to call it, certification or application process to get certified for all of the states that do that, which goes above it, and a lot more people are doing it, but a lot of them aren't still. So but that, that competition for the whole country is going to be stepping up as well.
Well, I think, part of the strategy is obviously going to be that you really want to be expanding your platform, then being active on YouTube and answering questions for people and really positioning yourself. I imagine it for a therapist, trust, we deal with a lot of high trust clients where like trust is the number one thing they're trying to get, and video is going to be a big key because they can see you and hear you, right?
Makes better sense. Absolutely, it makes
Yeah.
big sense, I think.
So,
Yeah.
well, cool. We want to encourage you to kind of push forward with that, and I mean, obviously, we'd be willing to help you in any way. Cool. Beth, how are you? Haven't seen you in a little while. What are you working on these days?
Ooh, great question. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. I think
Okay,
I'm still stuck in paralysis analysis. I'm just going to stay there. I did have a question for Jerry, if I could. You had mentioned people working for shitty bosses, but not asking them the right question when they go into that scenario. What do you think is the right question for them to ask?
Well, it depends on what it is that you want to get out of a boss. If you want the boss to leave you alone, that would be one series of questions. Or if you want the boss to be, your mentor and someone who can help develop you to the next level.
Yeah.
It's a whole series of other kinds of questions. But what you ideally want to know, or what can give you the best information, is how has that boss handled people like you over the course of his or her or their career?
Yeah.
So,
So it's just
if they had hired a whole host of folks like you over the last 5 years, and none of them still are in the company, all of them have left, and he or she doesn't know where they are now, it gives you a good indication that maybe that's not the kind of place you want to be.
Cool. Thanks.
Cool.
Thanks, Bob.
Cool. Welcome. Stephanie, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for letting me speak. I do have a question for us. Our company is in growth mode right now, and we have dominated one platform, I would say, pretty well. So we're on LinkedIn mostly, and we're now starting to venture out into other platforms. And something that we're currently experimenting with, and I feel like it's a little bit of overwhelm when it comes to this process for us, is how do we differentiate our content from going from like LinkedIn over to YouTube as one of the ones that we're moving on to right now, and create new content and different content, and what does that look like, and what type of advice would you have for us in that situation?
So I know Brandon will have some thoughts on this. I think the difference between YouTube and LinkedIn is that YouTube is a platform where people go to find out answers, So the content has to be in the construct of teaching them something or solving a problem, answering a question. LinkedIn is a push mechanism, right? It's kind of pushed on you as you go through the feed. So it's more about, in LinkedIn, you're trying to capture attention. And on YouTube, you're trying to basically create video and context with questions and keywords that people are typing in. So, Google is indexing your YouTube content, right? Even the words inside of it. So it has to be in context of people looking for that thing and being present when for those types of topics, versus LinkedIn, where you have to kind of like get attention because it's just a stream of content, and it's just people kind of like, all right, I want to stop and look at this thing, So
Yeah.
it's a much different way to approach content based on that type of media. Facebook is very similar to LinkedIn in that way, by the way, is like you're trying to first get attention, then, then you're delivering the content. Whereas YouTube, it's like you're getting into the content right away because that's what people are valuing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it absolutely makes sense. And I'm thinking too about just creating the video, what kind of, for YouTube, so if I'm going to go down this path a little bit more and look to educate my audience, what type of advice would you give to someone who's just starting out in that world?
Brandon?
I would say, what's going on in what is the conversation that is happening? What's key in your target audience's head? What's keeping them up? The same thing when we're trying to figure out a USP or we're trying to identify, what unique problem you solve. There's this concept called the PreConversation. So, and Bob has mapped this out when he talks about the customer journey, what is it? Customer awareness journey.
Yep.
So there's people who are aware of their problem, and they're going to ask questions like, where do I go to get this, or how do I do that? But then there's those that aren't even aware of it. And if you can begin that conversation there, what are the conversations that people are having before they realize I need to solve a problem? And you begin that narrative there, very powerful. I think LinkedIn still doesn't know what it wants to be when it grows up. Bob and I have just banged our head against the wall because here's a platform for business people to engage with business people. And it's too expensive to advertise on, and people they're not going to it as frequently as another social media account. So it's got to figure itself out. I do know that LinkedIn just made a deal with Google to start indexing their content and their videos. I'm not sure where I heard that. Bob, was that from the Find My Way Home team, or maybe it was on my
Well, I think it was actually
it was on the.
Well, Stephanie, you work with Joshua. Wasn't Joshua the one that kind of gave us a little heads up on that?
So that's it. That's the next thing for LinkedIn and what they're moving towards. So yeah.
Okay. So I think you can knock out both things with one type of video. And Bob, we could even show the example of what we did, like a year ago or so, of me just riffing on about 5 or 10 basic video tips, and we use those on YouTube and we use them on LinkedIn, and they were fine. Does that help? Am I answering your question, or is there some?
No, that answers it completely. I love the idea of doing a pre-conversation of what happens before they recognize that they're actually experiencing this pain point. I think that is brilliant in the way that you put that. Follow-up question, if I may.
Oh, absolutely.
A question for you guys on, since we're in this virtual world right now, and a lot of us, for us in our organization, we've been used to pitching from stage, right? So going to events, doing live presentations, doing those type of things in person. Now, all of a sudden, we're doing those in a virtual sense, right? And since you guys work with so many clients and you help them get what's going on in their head out, what type of advice would you give to someone who's uncomfortable with not speaking to a live audience, that they're struggling with speaking to a virtual audience or on a virtual stage? or even in the sense of recording their own videos. You know what I mean? Like it's
Are you saying they're comfortable live and not comfortable virtual?
not comfortable virtual, right? So, you know,
Okay.
even when you're doing like a video and you're speaking to your audience that you're then going to edit and then put on, you know, whatever platform later on, you're not really talking to another human being,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. All right. So one of the strategies we use is if you look through a lot of the videos we do, probably 90% of what we do is conversational, where the subject is not actually staring into the lens. They're looking off camera at an interviewer. We call them the director. So one of Brandon's strategies that he uses, even if you're going to do this yourself, is to have somebody in the room where you are looking at them and having and answering questions to them. Because what we found is that people aren't really gifted staring into a lens and looking comfortable. You know, they freeze up, their energy goes low, and without the thing about speaking live against with an audience is you get all kinds of feedback and energy that you don't get in a virtual setting. So to mimic that, we have found that the conversational style video works best because the energy of the person listening or asking the question and listening to the answer, even just their facial expressions and their attentiveness to you, keeps your energy up, and you actually are really comfortable talking to another human. It's not comfortable to talk into a lens. It's more comfortable to talk to a human. So that's I think that's probably our biggest strategy, Brandon, to get somebody to like overcome that.
That's it in a nutshell. And you can, you know, if people are trying to do this on their own, we generally recommend for FAQ videos or videos where you're teaching or training or educating, you are looking at camera. If you're pontificating, if you're maybe dispensing advice, maybe if you're telling a story, that's usually kind of looking off camera and pretending like you're being interviewed or talking to someone. I always recommend, you know, you can tape a piece of paper on the wall with a smiley face and allow that to be your avatar. You could get a family member or someone or a stuffed animal even. It sounds silly, but if you can get yourself to focus and pretend, you'll absolutely forget about that camera and you'll engage with that. So it's kind of like create an imaginary friend to focus on. And you're just looking slightly off camera. So yeah.
Hey, do you guys mind if I throw in a tip here?
Sure, go right
Yeah,
ahead.
sure. And you are not Stephanie Taylor, because Stephanie Taylor, I know.
Stephanie Taylor, you need to take care of that facial hair. I don't know.
Hi, everybody. My name is Courtney Sparkman, and I just want to throw in the comments. So I've been on YouTube probably about 3 or 4 years now. We were blogging prolifically, and someone said, hey, the next wave is video. So we started the video process. And one of the things, you know, kind of to the other Stephanie's point, is that when you first start that process, it is absolutely uncomfortable being the only person in a room talking to a camera. So what I found myself doing is I probably did a series of 20 or 30 videos that will never see the light of day, right? And it's repetition like everything else. So eventually after video number 22, 23, it just becomes kind of natural. And those 50 videos that I did, you know, those are all home movies and we can sit back and enjoy them at my house, but no one else will ever see them. So a lot of that, it's repetition and just practicing your craft before you release it to the rest of the world. My 2 cents.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of video that we end up shooting with clients that never sees the light of day for that very reason.
Yeah.
So good questions.
Good stuff.
And then tell us about your business a little bit. So you're doing YouTube. What market are you in?
Me, Stephanie, or the other Stephanie?
The other Stephanie.
The pretty Stephanie can talk. Wait a minute, no. Which one's
wow.
that?
The bearded Stephanie.
Yeah, yeah.
Stephanie. There we go.
Not the pretty Stephanie. The pretty Stephanie is the other stuff. Never mind.
So I own a software as a service company. So we do SaaS for security guards companies. So in my particular industry, Most of our customers will find us via YouTube. Hold on.
Interesting.
Yeah, so most of our customers are small to medium-sized businesses. They are ex-police officers, ex-military, ex-security professionals, and they aren't necessarily going to be on LinkedIn, right? So we found that providing video content on YouTube, Facebook is what really got people to follow us. And we see quite a bit of business, you know, people coming on saying, hey, the name of the company is Officer Reports, I'm sorry. So people engage with us, and as they're talking to our salespeople, one of the first things that they ask is, hey, is Courtney around? Right? So it's kind of funny that as you're putting this video content out, you know, they say people buy from people who they trust, that they know, they like, all that good stuff. Putting that video content out allows people to build that relationship with you without you having to actually invest the time. So what happens is when they come to the organization, they start to interact with the organization. They feel like they already know you. There's this level of trust because they've gotten a sense of who you are, what you represent. And that's what we really needed as a company, because again, a lot of our customers were not really technical, and we're selling a technical product. So we invested in doing a lot of different types of content, video content, to make sure that both our customers understood what we did and that they were comfortable with us and were able to find us.
Cool. So are people finding you organically, or are you doing any like advertising through YouTube to push videos towards people?
Yes, we have not done much advertising at all. So
Wow.
this year, we started advertising on Facebook, little on YouTube, but mostly on Facebook. Most of our advertising dollars go to Facebook. But prior to that, it was just kind of organic, right? So we created these social media channels, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and we posted a lot of our content, bits and snippets and full videos across all the channels. And just over time, people start to find you. And what happens is then they start referring videos, and videos get sent here, videos get sent there. And I think we've done a pretty good job of setting up our YouTube channel to make the content consumable, right? So generally speaking, our videos are probably no longer than 4 or 5 minutes. So people kind of get in and kind of go through them pretty quickly.
Well, it's interesting that I would have thought the converse would be that you would be putting more money into YouTube because you have a solution. If you were to come to me and say, like, if you hadn't put any money in and said, where should I invest? I would have said, do your top of funnel advertising on YouTube and do your nurturing on Facebook. That's what I would have told you as an expert. But it's just interesting that it's kind of the opposite, because I would think what I found for B2B prospecting is Facebook works really well, but it works really, really well when you're nurturing traffic coming in. So somebody's already kind of spinning around your ecosystem, having a retargeting nurturing campaign on Facebook with video works really well to basically move them from like, I'm interested to, I got to talk to Courtney. And then YouTube, we have found, especially for problem aware traffic. So, you know, they are actively searching for security solutions and things like that coming across your video. Whereas like all these other companies have very corporate, two-dimensional advertising, and here you are live on video, makes you completely stand out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. And again, one of the reasons that we probably did not invest heavy in advertising is money, first and foremost. Right? So it typically wasn't in the budget. And my background is in sales, right? So, you know, in my past life, I was a salesperson. So to me, my natural inclination was to find people, get a phone number, get on the phone with you. Right. So we're starting to experiment with pay-per-click this year, and it's definitely paying dividends.
Yeah.
So with that being said, honestly, we were looking to probably cut back on the amount of content that we were producing, because, you know, we probably at this point have 100+ videos, a few hundred blogs. It's enough content where we can start using that to bring people in.
Yeah. I mean, you know, to keep YouTube working though, they do like fresh content.
Okay.
But you will find you probably have a 90-10 or a 95-5 situation. Do you have like a handful of videos that have gotten way more views than others?
Definitely. Absolutely.
Okay. So one thing I would encourage you to do is take those videos that have been organically popular and then use those on Facebook and also drive traffic to those on YouTube, because those are your leading indicators of what people are engaging with and should work well when you put marketing dollars behind them.
Got it.
Cool.
Okay. Will do.
Cool. Well, thank you for joining us. Anybody else?
Stuff.
This is really good stuff. Thank you everybody for sharing today. Definitely reach out to us. On feedstories.com, we have a nice button there to do a video strategy session. We're working on some really cool stuff behind the scenes that we're not going to tell you about now. But it involves a lot more training and hands-on stuff that I think people are going to be interested in. So definitely stay tuned for that. You'll be hearing about that at the end of next month. And yeah, we're on the road a lot. We have a lot of video sessions scheduled. So it's been a really nice, busy quarter for us. We're going to give Brandon a couple weeks off in July.
Yay.
To recharge his batteries before we hook him back up and get him back on the road. So, but we appreciate you all. It's always good to connect with some of you we've seen before, some of brand new friends. Thank you for joining us today. And we'll look forward to either talking with you on the phone or seeing you again on the next call.
Cool.
Appreciate you guys.
Awesome. All right. Take care. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.